during the day, when we're upset, it's self-will coming back. If I'm restless, irritable, discontent, I have a solution now. I'm thinking about Bob. Bob is the problem. When I let go, and it's all about a higher spiritual level, rising over all of these daily problems, addictions and people and food and this nonsense, which is really not true. The real truth, which will set you free, is that we're spiritual beings living in a human body. And I spoke to this Hasidic rabbi once. He says, go out and enjoy the world. He says, go out in the five senses, but realize the falseness of it. And that true joy and happiness is never going to come from the outside. It's in the in. Never going to come from the food, the alcohol, the drugs. It's going to come from in here. And knowing that, then we could be happy and joyous. The topic was letting go. And I want to add to that, which we talked about many times, beyond all understanding. So letting go beyond all understanding. And I started to realize when I try to control something, I'm trying to analyze it and understand it. I'm trying to get that control through the self. And on page 25 in the Big Book, Dr. Jung said to Roland Hazard, here's just one sentence he says in 27. What Dr. Jung said was, ideas and emotions and attitudes, which were once the guiding forces of the lives of these men, are suddenly cast to one side, and a completely new set of conceptions, motives began to dominate them. So if we talk about our addictions, we talk about living life, our best thinking got us here. We needed a whole revolutionary way of thinking. And how do we do that? Well, we have what's called the 12 steps. Step 1 alone tells us that we can't do it. It says we're powerless. So instead, if we don't accept step 1, we're going to have difficulty going through the rest of the steps. We won't be able to, actually. It's the basis. Step 2 said how to be restored to sanity. So I had to realize all my thinking about everything I tried to do was more or less insane. And how do I know that? Because it never got better. All the so-called experts, the self-help books I read and all the diets I went on and everything I tried through self-will didn't work because the topic was letting go. I wasn't letting go. Actually, I was trying to hold on more and hold on more, right? Doing the opposite of letting go. I figured I could figure this out. I could analyze it. We grew up in an age of science, right? Industrial Revolution, everything could be figured out by science. Look at all the modern mechanisms. But we always talk about how even with going to the moon, the internet, and all these modern miracles we haven't the doctors and scientists figured out the answer to our food addiction. Because our food addiction, it seems, starts in our thinking. And it says in the Big Book on page 23, if the thinking is overcome, then the allergy become academic because we wouldn't go towards the allergy once our thinking changes. We'd be able to keep away from it like a hot stove. But when our thinking is crazy, we put our hand on the stove constant. Actually, on page 25, 24, it tells us exactly what we do. In the chapter, there is a solution, and it's in italics, the whole paragraph. Not many are in the big paragraph like this in the Big Book. It says, the fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. So our best thinking.
If you liked the video so far, press the like and subscribe button.
We couldn't do it. It was beyond all understanding. Our intellect couldn't figure this solution to our problem. The more I tried to figure it out, the worse it got, actually. The more I obsessed about it. So our so-called willpower became practically non-existent. It says our thinking and our intellect became practically non-existent. We were unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We were without defense. Without defense means we can't do it. No matter how much we tried, we didn't have the defense. So in relation to our addiction to food, again, our best thinking got us here. Anybody just coming on the meeting, the topic is letting go and beyond all understanding. So the more I tried to control people, situations, and my addictions, I was trying to understand it through the intellect. And also, again, as Dr. Silkwood said, the doctors and scientists, even the big intellectual people, the people who studied this all day long, the PhDs, they couldn't figure it out. It was beyond them. It says beyond their academic synthetic knowledge. They couldn't figure it out. And that was 100 years ago, and 100 years later, they still haven't figured it out. And everything we've tried and every diet we've been on, 95% of it fails, and the 5% of people stay on are miserable. So we needed a spiritual awakening. And I just, was recapping a little bit for people just coming on. And I said, step one tells us exactly what the whole topic's about letting go. Step one said we're powerless, but we keep on trying to hold on and hold on. The more educated I get on this topic, the more I read books I read on self-help diet books, the more diets I go on, the more I obsess about it, the better it would get. I had to realize step two told us that's insane thinking. And step three gives us a solution when the topic was letting go. Beyond all understanding, step three says made a decision to turn our will and our life over. And I had read, and I'll read it again on page 27. Come to our free Zoom meeting. See info and description. Now back to our video. Roland Hazard went to see Dr. Young. He was at his wit's end. Roland Hazard went to Dr. Young. He did psychoanalysis on him. In those days, it was the days, of Freud, and Dr. Young was a student. It's amazing the history behind this book, and he had to go all the way to Europe. So it turned out that he had to come. He went back home, started drinking right away, had to come back, and he said, "Is there no answer?" And Dr. Young had to search deeply, and he started to realize he realized a solution as he became more spiritual in his analysis and whatever he did as a psychologist. So he started to realize that he saw people recover. But as he said exactly this again, I'll repeat it. So Roland said to Dr. Young, he said to the doctors, no exception. This relates to us all in our food addiction. Yes, replied the doctor. So here he was really upset, Roland Hazard, but now he gets a yes out of the doctor. There is exceptions. Exceptions to cases such as yours have been occurring since early times. And he talks exception cases such as yours because he's talking about the hopeless variety. They talk about that and more about alcoholism. Three types of alcoholics. Then the moderate, the heavy drinker, and the hopeless variety that gets insanely drunk. A lot of us here, and I know myself, was the hopeless variety. Couldn't help ourselves. Here and there, once in a while, alcoholics have been called what is called spiritual experiences. To these occurrences, they are phenomenon. And he explains right here what a spiritual experience is. They appear to be in the nature of huge emotional displacements and rearrangements, ideas and emotions and attitudes, which were once the guiding forces of these men. A new set. We need the whole thing with our problem, especially with food, is we need a design for living, a conception change.